ID Tech is more than just the original and most trusted tech camp for kids ages 7 to 17. ID Tech is where kids find their people. The engineering and creating people. The fire-breathing, shell-spinning BattleBots people. The just as happy building games as they are playing them people. ID Tech offers over 50 epic courses, like Camp Crunch Labs IRL, BattleBots with Take-Home Bots, and more at 75 college campuses across the country. Visit idtech.com and use code IDTech to save $150 on a week that's guaranteed to be the highlight of your kid's summer. ID Tech is more than just the original and most trusted tech camp for kids ages 7 to 17. ID Tech is where kids find their people. The engineering and creating people. The fire-breathing, shell-spinning BattleBots people. The just as happy building games as they are playing them people. ID Tech offers over 50 epic courses, like Camp Crunch Labs IRL, BattleBots with Take-Home Bots, and more at 75 college campuses across the country. Visit idtech.com and use code IDTech to save $150 on a week that's guaranteed to be the highlight of your kid's summer.
Okay, I have to tell you, I was just looking on eBay where I go for all kinds of things I love, and there it was.
That hologram trading card. One of the rarest, the last one I needed for my set. Shiny like the...
designer handbag of my dreams. One of a kind. eBay had it, and now everyone's asking, ooh, where'd you get your...
windshield wipers. eBay has all the parts that fit my car. No more annoying... just beautiful.
Millions of finds, each with a story. eBay. Things people love.
Hello, I'm Sarah, and welcome to The Whispering Woods. This episode is all about Lake Lanier, and Toby isn't with me to say that because it's Easter and he's gone to his dad's already. It was all in a bit of a flurry, and I was stood there going, hello, we haven't recorded yet. He's just like shrugged his shoulders, laughed, and off he went. So I'm doing this on my own. He'll be back again next week, no doubt. I've been meaning to do Lake Lanier for ages. So I finally bit the bullet. So we're going to do a nice deep dive into the history, all of the phenomena, what's going on at Lake Lanier. But first of all, if you'd like to support the podcast, you can do so by visiting patreon.com/The Whispering Woods, where we have a number of tiers and you can listen ad-free for a small monthly fee. We're also on Apple Premium, where for $4.99 you get all episodes ad-free. And as you have probably noticed, Haunted is back now. So we're going to be travelling around the world, looking into some scary and haunted places. I hope you guys are okay, my little wood whisperers. I really hope you are, because I feel the energy coming out from all over the place. It's just like, this is wrong. There's so many wrong things at the moment, and I don't really recognise this world anymore. It's not the world I've lived for nearly 52 years, that's for sure. Saying that, 70s, it was a bit rough, wasn't it? 80s, yeah. We've had our ups and downs. Right, I'll get straight into it. Are you ready for the story? The evening air settles heavy over northern Georgia. The kind of weight that hangs in the trees and presses against the water. Out on Lake Lanier, the shoreline lights fade one by one as cabins go dark. Boats knock softly against their moorings. Something about this lake becomes different at night. Quiet in a way that feels unnatural. Locals will tell you there's a reason for that. They'll say the past never really sank here. Not the towns, not the families, and not the dead. If you ask a Georgian what to avoid in the state, you'll often get the same answer. Don't swim in Lake Lanier. It's a warning delivered casually. Everyone knows it's serious. Lanier isn't just a dangerous lake. It's a place soaked in trauma, both human and historical. And over the decades, 3 strands of its story have become inseparable. The violence that happened on this land long before it was flooded, the forced displacement that erased entire communities, and the staggering number of deaths that have occurred since the water rose. Some say the lake is cursed. Others say it's haunted. And some believe the lake is simply claiming what was never laid to rest. To understand why so many people fear Lake Lanier, we have to go back. Before the water, before the dam, before the drownings, to the land that now lies hundreds of feet below the surface. Before Lake Lanier existed, the land beneath it was home to generations of Native American communities. In 1838, the Cherokee Nation was forcibly removed from what is now Forsyth County by the US government, driven westward on the Trail of Tears, a brutal displacement that killed thousands. Homes, farms, and burial grounds were taken over, sold off, and resettled. Nearly a century later, the area around the Chattahoochee River and the small town of Oscarville grew into a thriving black agricultural community. Oscarville had churches, schools, small businesses, and tight-knit families. It wasn't large, but it was stable and self-sustaining. Residents farmed, traded, and raised their children on the same land that their parents had lived on. Then in 1912, everything changed. A young white woman named May Crow was found assaulted and badly injured. Without evidence, suspicion fell immediately on young black men from the area. Over the following days, white mobs stormed the region. They lynched one man, Rob Edwards, in front of the courthouse. 2 teenage boys, Ernest Knox and Oscar Daniel, were given a sham trial by an all-white jury and executed in front of thousands of spectators. The violence escalated. Night riders threatened black families, burned churches, and destroyed homes. Oscarville's black population, one of the few in Forsyth County, was driven out entirely, forced to flee with whatever they could carry. By the 1920s, Oscarville as it once was had been wiped out. Its remains, church posts, timber foundations and farmland, would later become the bottom of Lake Lanier. For many people in Georgia, the haunting of Lanier starts here. They believe the lake's darkness isn't just about accidents. It's rooted in a place soaked in racial terror and the forced removal of entire communities. In the late 1940s and early 1950s, the US Army Corps of Engineers began purchasing land to create a reservoir that would serve Atlanta's growing need for water and hydroelectric power. Beaufort Dam would be the structure that held it back. The valley was not empty. There were still families living there. White farmers, black families who had managed to return, small business owners, people whose relatives were buried on the land. When the government came, residents were told to sell or be forced out. Churches were dismantled, roads were cut off. Entire homesteads were demolished or simply abandoned. But not everything was moved. Even today, long-time locals insist But not all the bodies from the cemeteries were exhumed. Some graves were unmarked, others were forgotten. When the water rose, anything left behind, coffins, foundations, timber beams, disappeared under 200 feet of murky water. Lanier flooded the valley in 1956. As the last rooftops vanished beneath the surface, the lake began swallowing things no one expected. Since its creation, Lake Lanier has claimed an estimated 700 lives. That's a staggering number for a recreational lake. Some have drowned, some have vanished completely, their bodies never found. Others died in boating collisions, sudden sinkings, freak electrocutions, or unexplained accidents. Something about this lake kills people, and it does often. Divers describe underwater conditions unlike anywhere else. Few lakes have entire towns sitting at the bottom, and the debris fields are chaotic. Visibility is almost non-existent. Sudden drop-offs and cold pockets make swimming treacherous. Tree trunks still rooted to the ground rise in walls beneath the surface. Old foundations sit intact. Rusted metal from farm equipment lies half buried in silt. More than one diver has described the same feeling. A sensation like something brushing past. A tug at a fin. A hand on an ankle. A grown man once told a local reporter he felt fingers close around his calf in the dark water before he kicked free. He surfaced shaking and refused to dive again. Not everyone makes it back to the air. If Lanier has a signature ghost story, it's this one. In April 1958, two women, Delia Parker Young and Susie Roberts, were driving late at night after attending a dance. They stopped for gas, pulled away without paying, and were last seen speeding toward the narrow bridge that crossed the early, partially flooded lake. They never made it home. For decades, authorities couldn't find their car. The water was already too deep, the visibility too poor. A year after the disappearance, a fisherman spotted a body floating near the bridge. The corpse was impossible to identify. It was missing both hands. Locals made the connection immediately. Stories began circulating of a woman seen walking along the bridge at night. She wore a blue dress. She was dripping wet. Sometimes she moved slowly, like she was disorientated. Sometimes she reached towards cars, as if asking for help. Drivers described turning to look, only to see an empty road. In 1990, 32 years after the accident, construction crews discovered a rusted Ford sedan deep under the surface. Inside were skeletal remains, later identified as Susie Roberts. That meant the body found in 1959 belonged to Delia. The legend said that the lady of the lake had no hands. The recovered corpse had no hands. People still see her. A group of teenagers crossing the bridge at night reported seeing a figure standing at the edge, staring into the water. When their headlights hit her, she vanished. A fisherman swears he saw a woman, floating face up near the bridge, who dissolved into ripples when he approached. A couple on a jet ski claimed a woman surfaced beside them for a split second, staring with dark eyes before slipping back down. Not everyone believes in ghosts, but the number of people who report a woman in blue near the bridge is hard to ignore. Much of the lake's darkness is tied back to the land it drowned. Oscarville, the community destroyed by racial violence in 1912, lies beneath part of the reservoir. The internet has revived this story in recent years, especially as Lanier's death toll continues to climb. Social media threads and discussion boards often connect the lake's tragedies to the brutality committed a century ago. The idea isn't that the lake is haunted in a simple sense. It's that the land was soaked in trauma long before it disappeared underwater. Visitors describe the area around the lake as unnaturally quiet at night. Some say the woods above the reservoir feel hostile. A hiker later wrote online that he felt an old anger in the trees, something heavy and unsettled that followed him all the way back to his car. People swim in the water, they fish and ski and boat, but many locals refuse to go near the lake, saying they can feel something wrong the moment they get close. What people report at Lake Lanier after dark follows a handful of consistent patterns. The stories differ in tone, length, and belief, but the themes repeat often enough that they form a recognisable catalogue of experiences. One of the most frequently described experiences involves seeing a head or figure in the water at night, usually motionless. A widely shared account describes a man fishing alone late one summer evening. The lake was calm, the only sound the soft slap of water against the hull. Then he heard splashing, sharp, sudden, like a person kicking to stay afloat. He swung his flashlight toward the noise. There, just beyond the beam's reach, was a woman's head. Dark hair spread around her like ink. Her face was still, eyes fixed on him. She wasn't waving, she wasn't calling, just watching, half submerged in total silence. Panicked, he shouted, asking if she needed help. The beam of his flashlight shook. For a split second, he looked away. When he looked back, she was gone. No ripples, no bubbles. The lake was smooth again, as if nothing had disturbed the surface at all. The man packed his gear without finishing his cast. He didn't return to that spot again. Variations of this story appear often. A face, a head, a figure drifting motionless on the water before disappearing the moment someone looks away. Another recurring theme involves being grabbed, usually by something beneath the water, most often around the ankles. One Reddit user described diving near a cove with friends. As he swam along the bottom, he felt fingers close around his leg. He assumed it was one of his friends goofing around, until he surfaced and realised he was alone. No one had been within 10 feet of him. Another forum poster, a scuba diver, said he felt more than one hand at the same time, as if multiple sets of fingers pressed against his calves before releasing. Many of these stories come from experienced swimmers, people familiar with weeds, debris, and natural hazards. They insist what they felt was unmistakably a human touch. The sense of being grabbed seems to come up most often in the deeper, darker parts of the lake, where visibility is nearly zero, and the preserved underwater timber stands can create the sensation of being surrounded. Nighttime fishermen frequently talk about boats with no lights, drifting silently across the lake. These aren't ghost ships with dramatic detail. Most describe them as just wrong. They move too smoothly, too quietly. They glide without the hum of an engine or the slap of water against a hull. Some say they vanish when approached. Others say they dissolve into fog. A few insist the boats turn out to be reflections, but reflections that don't behave like normal light. One of the more commonly repeated posts involves a pontoon boat that glided across a narrow channel, perfectly steady. A fisherman watched it drift behind a tree line on a small island, waiting to see it emerge on the other side. It never did. But there was no sound of an engine starting or stopping. No splash, no movement at all. He waited 15 minutes. The boat never reappeared. Some kayakers and walkers describe hearing muffled shouting coming from below the lake's surface. They're not clear words, and not full voices, more like a cry filtering through water, low, distorted, almost distant. Some say it sounds like a woman. Others swear it sounds like multiple people at once. The noise usually comes just after dusk, when the water cools and carries sound differently. People who report it often say the voices came from directly below them, not across the lake. One kayaker wrote that the sound was so loud beneath her boat, she thought a diver was trapped below. When she leaned over the edge to check, the noise stopped instantly. She paddled back to shore without looking down again. And now to the vanishing car. This is one of the more surreal kinds of stories, yet it appears frequently. People claim to see headlights moving across parts of the lake, where old roadbeds lie submerged. They don't see the car, only the glow of two lights gliding smoothly under the surface, following the line of a long-drowned roadway. The lights travel a short distance, and then suddenly disappear. One Reddit user said his father, a long-time night fisherman, saw glowing lights rise from deep water like a pair of eyes. They floated upward, faded, and disappeared into darkness. There is no known natural phenomenon that resembles car headlights beneath a lake. The drowned infrastructure beneath Lanier is very real, including submerged bridges, paved roads, intersections, house foundations. Sometimes during droughts, parts of these structures re-emerge, proof of how intact the old landscape remains below. In 2019, something unsettling was discovered at Van's Tavern Park, a wooded recreation area along the shore of Lake Lanier. A ranger found a noose fashioned out of an orange extension cord, tied high to a stump overlooking the water. Nearby on the ground was a yellow post-it note. It read, "Sorry about the mess. ID is in right pocket." Beneath that was a second line, stranger and more cryptic. "I have seen things you couldn't imagine. Those moments will disappear in time, like tears in the rain." The quote is from the film Blade Runner, spoken by a character reflecting on memories lost forever. The ranger called authorities, and deputies searched the woods. Boats swept the shoreline. Dive teams inspected the water. But no body was ever found. No wallet or ID was recovered. No person was reported missing who matched any potential lead. The Daily Dot documented this incident because of the mystery that followed. Some locals believe the person changed their mind and left. Others think they were interrupted or scared off. But a handful of posters in regional Reddit threads and Georgia-based forums suggested something else. That the person might have gone into the lake, or that the note referenced something they believed they'd seen there, something they thought no one else would understand. The case remains unsolved. There is no closure, only a cryptic note, a noose, and a stretch of dark water where the trail goes cold. Every year, despite the warnings, People keep coming. Lanier is marketed as a summer paradise, beaches, boating, family recreation, and many enjoy it without ever seeing anything strange. But the death toll keeps climbing. People go missing, boats turn up empty, swimmers vanish in shallow water, accidents happen in broad daylight, in calm conditions, without explanation. Lanier's reputation online is almost mythic now. TikTok calls it America's most haunted lake. Reddit threads are filled with people who grew up near the water and refuse to swim in it. Some think the lake is cursed. Some think it's haunted. Others think it's just dangerous. But there are a few who say something else. Lanier isn't haunted. It's hungry. It's hard to reconcile the horror stories with the bright sunny photos of families tubing behind speedboats. But that's part of what makes Lake Lanier so unsettling. It looks harmless, inviting even. A man who lost a friend to the lake said the same thing. It looks calm, but it isn't. It doesn't feel like a normal lake. You can tell something's under there. A woman who lives near the water told an interviewer that she won't go out at night. She hears splashing when the lake is still. She sees ripples she can't explain. She believes the dead are restless. She's not alone. More than any other place in Georgia, Lake Lanier carries a heavy sense of unfinished business. The drowning of towns, the uprooting of families, the deaths, hundreds and hundreds of them, and the stories about what happens when the sun goes down and the water goes black. Maybe the hauntings are a way the past pushes through. Maybe the tragedies continue because the land was violated and never healed. Or maybe the lake is simply dangerous, a man-made reservoir built over a broken foundation. But if you talk to the locals, if you read the stories online, if you spend enough time near the shore at night, you'll hear the same thing over and over. There's something wrong with Lake Lanier. And sometimes, especially on nights when the air is still and the water lies flat as glass, people say you can feel the past rise up beneath you. They say you can sense eyes on you from under the surface. And if you listen closely, you might hear something else, a splash, a whisper, or the faint sound of someone calling for help from deep below the water. The lake is quiet, but the dead are not.
ID Tech is more than just the original and most trusted tech camp for kids ages 7 to 17. ID Tech is where kids find their people, the engineering and creating people, the fire-breathing, shell-spinning BattleBots people, the just as happy building games as they are playing them people. ID Tech offers over 50 epic courses like Camp Crunch Labs IRL, BattleBots with Take-Home Bots, and more at 75 college campuses across the country. Visit idtech.com and use code IDTech to save $150 on a week that's guaranteed to be the highlight of your kid's summer.
Now, if there was ever going to be a place that had some bad energy, I imagine it would be here. Because, come on, you do that to people, you're kind of asking for it, aren't you? Mistreat people like that. I'm really, I like to think I'm not vindictive, but I probably would be really vindictive and not take it out on innocent people, but I'd be haunting the heck out of that lake if that was me. I'd be lying in wait. I'd be interested if anything happened to the people who put that in motion. You know, if anything bad in their lives happened after throwing people off their land, flooding their homes, making them move, and just, yeah, it's nasty. It's the kind of thing that you could see coming up again and happening all over again, because we just don't learn. We never learn from history. We just keep making the same old mistakes, and it does my head in. I'm moaning, aren't I? Yep, it's those hormones. Menopausal me. Well, that's it for me today. I'm going to stop there because I'm sure you don't want to hear me moaning. And I will catch you again on Thursday for the Reddit and listener story episode. Take care, everyone. The stories told on the Whispering Woods are inspired by historical records, witness reports, and local folklore. While every effort is made to research and represent events accurately, some details, names, and locations may differ from official accounts or have been changed out of respect for those involved. These episodes are created for storytelling and entertainment purposes and should not be considered definitive fact or investigative journalism.